Absolutely. Here is part 1 of the story titled, The Alien Queen Mocked His Sword So He Pulled Out the One. That ended her empire. Part 1. The Duel of Disrespect. Word count. Approximately 950 words. Tense. Third person. Simple English. Violation free. In Engogging. Part 1. The Duel of Disrespect. Captain Dax Mercer stood tall in the grand hall of the Zerati Empire. The air was heavy, filled with strange alien perfumes and cold metal scents. The walls were covered in glowing runes, written in a language humans had barely begun to understand. In front of him sat Queen Elkavari, ruler of over 100 star systems. She was tall, elegant, and dangerous. Her skin shimmered like polished stone, and her golden eyes watched Dax with quiet amusement. "You came all this way," she said with a smirk, "just to show me that toy." She pointed at the sword strapped to Dax's back. It was a simple thing, earth-forged steel, handcrafted by a blacksmith in a forgotten town. No plasma core, no advanced tech, just a sharp blade, polished with care. "It's not a toy," Dax replied calmly. "It's a symbol." Elkavari let out a laugh, and her court joined her. The room echoed with the cruel sound of mockery. "A symbol? Of what?" she asked, standing from her throne. Her long, curved weapon shaped like a glowing trident clicked against the floor. "Your backward planet, your primitive kind." Dax didn't answer. He simply stepped forward and unstrapped the sword from his back. He placed it gently on the floor between them. "I didn't come to fight," he said. "I came to offer peace." That word peace was met with silence. Then another round of laughter. "You humans," the queen said, circling him like a predator. "Always speaking of peace after your little colonies are threatened. Always begging for talks after you poke the beast." Dax looked up at her. "We don't beg, we warn. And this sword is that warning." Elkavari raised her hand, signaling her guards to stand back. The hall became still. "A warning," she said slowly. "Very well. Then let us see what this warning can do." She raised her weapon and spun it once in the air. The tip glowed with violet energy. The floor beneath her feet shimmered with a defensive shield grid. She moved like someone who had fought hundreds of battles and won them all. Dax picked up the sword. It felt light, familiar, like home. He had no shield, no armor, just his old military uniform and the steel blade, a gift from his grandfather. A reminder of Earth's past. Elkavari struck first. Her weapon moved fast, leaving streaks of light as it cut the air. Dax dodged the first few swings, but barely. One strike grazed his arm, burning through his jacket. He winced, but stood firm. "You're slow," she mocked, pressing the attack. "Your sword is heavy. You're already tired." Dax blocked the next hit with his blade. Sparks flew. "But you're not killing me," he said, holding her gaze. She paused. "You could have ended it, but you're holding back." The queen narrowed her eyes. "You're stalling," she said, stepping back. "Why?" Dax wiped the blood from his arm. "Because this fight isn't the real battle. This is just the stage." Before she could answer, a sharp beep echoed in the hall. It came from the queen's own throne, a high alert signal. A hologram burst to life above her seat, showing the image of her forward fleet. They were under attack. "What is this?" she growled. More signals came in, confused, panicked. Her ships, parked near a human mining colony, were losing control. Their engines shut down, their systems locked up. Then silence. "Who did this?" she roared. Dax smiled. "While you were busy mocking our swords, we were studying your systems. We found backdoors, weak spots, and now we're showing you what they mean." The queen turned to him, furious. "You came here knowing you couldn't win," she said. "You came here to distract me." "I came here," Dax said, sheathing his sword, "to deliver a message. You're not untouchable, and humans don't run from bullies. We fight them with brains first, blades second." Elkavari stood still. Her court was silent now. No one laughed, no one moved. The human, who had just been a joke moments ago, had become something else. Dax turned to leave. "You mocked the sword," he said, nodding to the blade on his back. "But this one wasn't meant to kill. The one that's coming next, that one will end empires." And with that, he walked out of the throne room, leaving behind a room full of silent aliens and a very angry queen. She had thought him weak. She had thought humans were small and foolish. She had no idea what was coming next. Absolutely. Here's part 2 of the story. The alien queen mocked his sword, so he pulled out the one that ended her empire. Part 2. The Sword of Ruins, approximately 950 words, third person, simple English. Violation free. Interesting. Part 2. The Sword of Ruins. While weeks had passed since Captain Dax Mercer walked out of the Zerati throne room. Since then, the galaxy had changed. News spread fast. The Queen's forward fleet, 12 warships, had vanished without a single shot fired. They had shut down mid-flight, systems locked, crews lost. The only message found floating near the wrecks was a piece of metal with 2 words burned into it. Mock this. Across human space, Dax became a silent hero. But to the Zerati, he was a threat, a ghost hiding in the dark, far from the eyes of both human governments and alien empires. Dax returned to a place no one had visited in over 10 years, Luna 7, an abandoned colony base on Earth's moon. Dust blew through the open airlocks. Lights flickered from old solar panels. Machines sat dead, untouched since the end of the first expansion war. Inside a sealed vault, hidden beneath the old barracks, waited a weapon that should never have existed. Dax walked in with 2 people, his old team. The first was Orchid, cybernetic intelligence expert with silver implants across her neck and temples. She was born on Mars, but raised inside data streams, fast, cold, and brilliant. The second was Major Kumalo, a weapons engineer who had retired after the Luna conflicts. Strong, silent, and loyal, Dax stood at the vault door, wiped away the frost, and placed his hand on the scanner. The system woke up with a beep. Lights glowed red, then green. Still works, he whispered. Orchid raised an eyebrow. After all these years, I thought this thing was sealed forever. It was, Dax replied, until now. The door opened slowly, revealing a dark room filled with thick cables, glowing canisters, and one long black case at the center. Kumal walked up and typed in the old military code. The case opened. Inside was the blade. It didn't look like much at first, just a dark, smooth sword with no shine and no edge. But when Orchid touched the handle, the room buzzed with energy. This isn't a weapon, she said softly. It's a reactor, a focused singularity. It's both, Dax said. They call it Ragnablad, the blade of collapse, made from neutron-forged matter, stitched with quantum nerves. Kumalo frowned. This thing was banned. Too dangerous. And now, Dax asked. Kumalo looked him in the eye. Now it's necessary. 10 years ago, Project Ragnablad was meant to be a backup weapon. It could slice through matter by destabilizing atomic bonds. No shield could block it. No armor could resist it. But the project was shut down. Too unstable. Too deadly. Dax had kept its location secret, just in case. Now was that case. The team spent the next 2 days fixing the sword's power links, sensing its core with a control unit Orchid built from salvaged drones. When Dax finally picked it up, the sword vibrated, gently, like it was alive. It hummed with low energy, silent to the ears, but loud in the bones. You sure you can control it? Orchid asked. I don't need to control it, Dax said. I just need to aim it. He turned to the others. We won't use it like the Queen expects. No giant battles, no open war. Just strikes, surgical, fast, clean. We won't destroy her empire, we'll make it fall apart on its own. Kumalo nodded. That's how humans win. Not by being stronger, but smarter. Orchid pulled up a map of the Zerati Empire. We start with this, the relay station at Delta Myra. It's the key to their communications. If we take it out, the sectors will be blind for weeks. Then, Dax said, we cut deeper. The plan began that night. The team loaded into a stealth ship, small, fast, and quiet. No logos, no flags, just shadows. They flew across dark space, under Zerati patrol lines, avoiding beacons and satellites. No one saw them. No one expected them. At Delta Myra, the relay station floated above a dead Star, it was the size of a city and surrounded by defense drones. Orchid hacked the outer signal nets while Dax waited, sword in hand. Kumalo prepared an emperig, just in case. Now, Orchid whispered. Dax launched from the ship and moved like lightning. The blade cut through the first drone without resistance, no sound, no flash. Just quiet destruction, each strike made the sword brighter, like it was feeding off the energy around it. He reached the core of the station in minutes, with one clean motion. He plunged the sword into the central power coil. The whole relay went dark. No explosion, just silence. From far away, Zerati fleet stopped receiving orders. Messages were cut mid-sentence. Commanders froze. Ships lost their formation. The Empire blinked. And Dax was already gone. Later that night, Orchid sat beside him. In the ship, "You've just made the Queen your enemy," she said. "She'll hunt you now." "She already was," Dax replied. "Now she just knows my name." He looked at the sword resting beside him, its surface still warm. She laughed. "At steel," he said softly. "Let's see if she laughs at collapse." "Certainly." Here's part 3 of your HFY Sci-Fi story. The alien queen mocked his sword, so he pulled out the one. That ended her empire. Part 3. The queen's game, approximately 950 words, third person. Simple English, violation-free, engogging. Part 3. The queen's game. Queen Elkavari sat on her floating throne, her eyes staring at the holograms before her. Her empire was vast, spread across light years, filled with countless alien races who bowed before her power. But now, something was wrong. 3 systems had gone dark. Not destroyed, just silenced. No calls, no signals, no updates from her generals, and in every case, after the blackout, the only thing left behind was a strange message: mock this. Her claws tightened around her ceremonial spear. "One man," she hissed, "is doing all this?" Her top advisor, a thin, nervous alien named Vulek, nodded. "Captain Dax Mercer. Human. Former soldier. Strategic background. He was the one you spared after the duel." Elkavari remembered the moment well. She had mocked his simple steel sword, thinking it a joke. She had shown off her strength, let him live as an insult. Now, it seemed, the joke was on her. "What weapon is he using?" she asked coldly. Vulek hesitated. "Something old. Human-made. No data in our systems matches it. But it moves through matter like a virus. No explosion. No trace, just pure damage." The queen rose from her throne. "Then I'll stop playing games." Across her empire, Queen Elkavari sent a new message. Not one of peace or diplomacy, but of total alert. "Find the human. Kill him." She activated her personal war convoy 20 fast-attack ships, carrying elite hunters and tracking drones. Every system near human space was placed under martial lockdown. Even neutral planets were scanned. Every ship was searched. Humans were watched. Some were even arrested. But Dax was never found, because Dax wasn't hiding in the Empire. He was inside it. In a forgotten orbit around a burnt-out moon. Dax sat with Orchid and Kumalo in their stealth ship, watching the chaos unfold. "Look at them," Orchid said, showing a live feed. "They're tearing apart their own colonies, trying to find you." "Good," Dax said. "Let them burn their fuel chasing ghosts." Kumalo nodded. "Her empire is built on fear and control. We're making her lose both." But Dax knew it wouldn't last. The queen wasn't stupid. She'd adapt. Soon, she'd realize this wasn't just sabotage, it was a war of ideas. So they pushed harder. Next, they hit Verkani's 4, a planet-sized shipyard. It built the queen's war fleets, producing one dreadnought every 30 days. Dax and Kumalo snuck into the facility disguised as cargo inspectors. Orchid, from orbit, shut down the internal cameras for 7 minutes. That's all they needed. With Ragnarblad in hand, Dax sliced through the main fusion support. But instead of making it explode, he disabled the cooling systems just enough to cause a shutdown. Thousands of ships froze in place. Metal warped, engines died. Production was halted for months. Once again, no one saw him. No alarms. Just another message. This sword cuts empires, not people. Back on Virilax, Queen Elkavari raged. She destroyed 3 of her own planning chambers. She executed the base commander of Verkani's 4, even though he begged for mercy. She blamed her generals, her spies, her engineers. But deep down, she knew the truth. Dax wasn't beating her with weapons, he was beating her with shame. Every time she tried to show power, he made her look foolish. Every planet he hit, he left, standing just broken enough to show he could have ended it all if he wanted to die, and worst of all, the outer colonies were starting to believe in him. They began to whisper his name, Dax Mercer. The Sword Walker, the man who fights without killing, the human who walks between stars and brings justice. Her soldiers started hesitating. Her governors delayed orders. Some even sent quiet messages to Earth asking for negotiations. That was when the Queen knew this wasn't just an attack. This was a message to her empire. She summoned Vulek one final time. "Prepare my personal fleet," she ordered. "We are going to end this." "Where, my queen?" he asked. She pointed at the map. The human colonies, Earth, Mars, Titan, all of them. "But that will start a full war with humanity, then." "Let it start," she growled. "I'd rather burn their stars than be mocked by one man." Back on the stealth ship, Orchid received a ping. "They're moving." "Where?" Dax asked. "Straight for Earth." Dax stood up slowly. He strapped Ragnablad to his back. "So it begins," he said. Kumalo looked at him. "You think she'll come herself?" "She has to," Dax replied. "I didn't just hurt her empire. I hurt her pride. Now she wants to crush me in front of the galaxy." Orchid smirked. "Let her come. We've got the real sword now." Dax's eyes narrowed. "And it's time we show her what it was built to do." "Certainly. Here is part 4 of your story." Part 4. A sword between stars. Captain Dax Mercer sat in the cockpit of their small stealth ship, staring at the dark expanse outside the viewport. The stars were cold and distant, but the weight of what lay ahead made the silence feel heavy. The Zerati Empire was on the move. Queen Elkavari was sending her fleets directly toward Earth's colonies. The battle was no longer a game of shadows. It was becoming a war. Beside him, Orchid's fingers danced over the control panel. Streams of code and star charts flashed in front of her augmented eyes. "They're organizing their attack in 3 waves," she said softly. "First, they'll hit the outer colonies at Titan and Mars. Then Earth itself." Major Kumalo grunted, tightening his grip on a rifle resting beside him. "We've got to be faster. Hit their systems before they can fire." Dax nodded. "Exactly. This fight isn't just about ships or weapons. It's about control. If we can cut their communication and supply lines, their fleets will turn on each other." Orchid tapped a few commands and pulled up a holographic map of the Zerati War. Network red lines showed communication links connecting fleets, outposts, and defense satellites. Their network is tight but brittle. One well-placed strike could send the whole system crashing. Dax's lips curved in a slight smile. "Then that's where we go." The plan was bold. They would attack Kethra 9, a gas giant with a massive Zerati orbital station at its equator. The station controlled the communication relay for the entire southern sector of the Empire. Without it, fleets would be blind, and warships would move like lost ghosts. The stealth ship slid through the void, hidden by powerful cloaking technology. No Zerati scanner detected them. They moved closer to the station, quiet as a shadow. Orchid's voice was barely a whisper. "I'm in. Shutting down external sensors now." Outside, defense drones buzzed like angry hornets. But they were blind. Dax stood, gripping the Ragnablad sword. It hummed with energy. Alive in his hands, "We'll cut the Empire's eyes out," he said. He launched himself out of the ship, moving fast and silent across the metal hull of the station. The sword glowed faintly, casting a blue light on the gray surface. Drones spotted him and fired. Laser bolts sizzled in the air, but none could touch him. The blade seemed to absorb the energy, shimmering like liquid. Dax cut through the drones like a wind through grass. Each strike left no sound, no explosion, only a silence that swallowed the machines whole. He reached the core chamber, where the communication array pulsed with bright lights. With a deep breath, He plunged the sword into the main control panel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the lights flickered, alarms blared, and the entire station went dark. Back on the stealth ship, Orchid cheered softly. They've lost connection with half their fleet. Kumalo smiled grimly. One cut, and the whole empire stumbles. But the Queen was not idle. Across space, a fleet of Zerati warships shifted course. They moved to surround the station. Hunting for the saboteur, Orchid frowned. They're scanning for us. The cloak might not hold. Dax strapped the sword to his back and prepared to return. Cover me, he said. The ship hummed to life, dodging beams and missiles. They darted through the dark like ghosts. The next few days were a whirlwind of strikes and escapes. Dax and his team moved across the Empire, slicing communication arrays, shutting down supply routes, and spreading chaos. Everywhere the Zerati looked, they found systems dead or malfunctioning. Fear grew among their ranks. Rumors spread of a human ghost carrying a sword that could break through anything, and the Queen grew angrier. One night, in her private chambers, Elkavari stared at the stars. The weight of her empire pressed down on her shoulders like a mountain. This human thinks he can break me, she whispered. But I am the Queen. I am power. And power is not so easily broken. Her eyes burned with determination. I will find him, she said, and I will end him. Meanwhile, Dax sat quietly in the ship, feeling the weight of what was coming. This was no longer a simple war. It was a battle for survival, for pride, and for the future of two very different peoples. He touched the hilt of his sword and whispered, "Let's finish this." Certainly. Here's part 5 of your story. The alien queen mocked his sword, so he pulled out the one that ended her empire. Part 5. The throne falls silent. Approximately 950 words. Third person. Simple English. Violation free. Engogging. Part 5. The throne falls silent. The royal citadel on Virilax Prime was a towering monument of glass and metal, shining like a beacon among the stars. From its highest tower, Queen Elkavari watched the slow collapse of her empire. Each day brought more bad news: systems gone dark, fleets lost, her people's fear growing. But still, she held her throne. Her guards stood alert, their eyes sharp for any threat. But none came, because the real danger was not a fleet or army. It was a single man. Captain Dax Mercer. Inside the citadel, the Queen prepared for the inevitable. She gathered her Praetorian Guard, the most skilled warriors in the Empire, and the commanders of her personal armada. Find him, she ordered. Bring me the one who shames us all. Her voice was cold but steady. We will not fail, her lead commander promised. Elkavari's eyes searched the faces of her loyalists. This is no ordinary enemy. He fights with a sword no one understands. His strikes are sudden and deadly, but he does not kill without reason. She paused. I want him captured alive. Dax had become a ghost in the Empire, moving like a shadow, striking without warning, then disappearing before anyone could catch him. His team had grown smaller. Each strike carried risks. But the mission remained the same, to show the Zerati that humans fight not because they want war, but because they must. The final strike was planned carefully. Dax and Orchid infiltrated Virilax Prime itself, disguised as traitors. They moved quietly through crowded markets and narrow alleys, blending with the crowd. Kumala stayed in orbit, ready with the ship and weapons. Their target was the heart of the Empire, the central data core, beneath the citadel. Inside the core chamber, cold blue light filled the room. Rows of consoles blinked with information: fleet movements, supply routes, command codes. Dax approached the main console, the Ragnarblad sword glowing faintly at his side, ready. Orchid whispered from her comm unit. With one clean motion, Dax drew the blade and sliced through the main power cable. The core shuddered and went dark. Alarms blared instantly. Guards rushed in, weapons drawn. The final duel was not expected. Queen Elkavari herself arrived, flanked by her Praetorian Guard. Her spear was raised, eyes blazing. Stop him, she commanded. Dax faced her calmly. You mocked my sword once, he said softly. Now you'll see its true power. Elkavari lunged, spear spinning like a deadly storm. Dax dodged, feeling the rush of air as the blade passed near him. He countered with a precise strike, Ragnablag cutting through the metal floor. The duel was fierce, a clash of strength and will. The queen fought like a storm, but Dax moved like the wine fast. Quiet and unyielding, the Praetorian Guard tried to intervene, but Orcids hacking disabled their weapons. Kumala's ship fired precision EMP blasts, cutting communications and blinding sensors. Alone with the queen, Dax pushed forward. Finally, with a swift move, he disarmed her, sending her spear clattering across the floor. Elkavari stared at the blade at her throat. For a moment, silence, then she bowed her head. Dax stepped back and lowered the sword. "This war is over," he said. The queen nodded slowly. "You have proven your strength," she said quietly. "Not just with your sword, but with your mind." The empire would not fall that day, but it had changed forever. In the days that followed, broadcast of the duel spread across the stars. The queen's defeat was no secret. Her empire trembled, but Dax had done more than win a battle. He had shown that humanity was not to be mocked.